Welcome to another episode of Ask the Expert. I'm your host, Amy Board. Today's episode is our Meet the Expert episode with Sharon Meyers. If you haven't listened to the previous podcast that came out last Monday, please listen to it. She was wonderful and eloquent and so gracious and warm. She really answered my questions with honesty. She was so candid. I am excited about HFA's future. I'm excited to see what comes out of HFA in her tenure. It's so disappointing with this COVID-19 pandemic that we are unable to have symposium at its normal time. And I just hope that it meant something to you to get to know her a little bit through Ask the Expert. Today's conversation is with Sharon, and we get to learn a little bit more about her. Quite honestly, I was a big time nerd in my conversation with her that you guys will hear today. We have so many things in common. We both have nonprofit backgrounds. We both love fundraising, which is not a thing that's like a thing. I love her thoughts about giving. I think fundraising can be tricky. I think it can be really tricky for everyone involved, for people doing the actual ask, but also people that are being asked. And I know here in our bleeding disorder community, we're asked a lot. We're asked by our national organizations. We're asked by our local organizations. We're asked to do a lot for this community that I know serves you well. I know these organizations serve you well. And I'm just excited for you to hear Sharon's thoughts about giving and about hopefully releasing some of the pressure that you all feel as fundraisers, that you can really give where you believe in, that feels good to you and your family. So I loved talking to her about fundraising. Super nerdy. All the people that know me personally are going to laugh at this and be like, oh, Amy was like in seventh heaven. And then we get to talk about Colorado. She's from Colorado. She lives in Colorado. She works from Colorado. So it was very nostalgic for me. So anyway, it's a tremendous conversation. And I'm just excited that you guys get an opportunity to hear a little bit more about her story and who she is. It's kind of a cool thing about the new format of Ask the Expert is we get to explore some of these people that might seem a little untouchable. Let's get started. Let's do this thing. Please enjoy our second conversation with Sharon Meyers, and I will see you next month for another episode of Ask the Expert. So check it out. All right, Sharon, we're going to do round 2, where I get to ask you about nerdy stuff. I'm very excited about it. Sharon, welcome back to the Ask the Expert podcast. Full disclosure, this is the part of the podcast that I like to go rogue and I like to ask whatever I want. And I'll be honest with you, I'm fairly psyched to continue our conversation because we have so much in common. We are both nonprofit people, we're fundraising people, we're healthcare people, and we're Colorado people. So I'm a little bit unsure of where to start because there's so many things. But we didn't get a chance to do this really the first time we talked. Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you become interested in the nonprofit sector to begin with?
Well, I know it's awful to say this, but I kind of fell into it. I was working at a university and...
Didn't we all?
Yeah, we all kind of fell into it. I was working at a university, University of Southern Mississippi, and I just finished my master's, and my dean at the time, I told her I wanted to work at the university, and she told me, she's like, Sharon, you have such like an engaging personality, and, and it's easy to talk to you. I think you'd be good in development. And I didn't know anything about it, and I just kind of took the first job I could get and absolutely fell in love with fundraising because, and nonprofit work because you just do good in the world. And so at the time I was raising money for scholarships for kids who couldn't go to college and, and new buildings on the campus. And it was just amazing. And I've been very lucky. I've been able to do a lot of very exciting and really wonderful things in my life to be able to help other people. And so, I've raised money for new hospitals and flu shot programs or, emergency assistance programs. So I've just been so blessed.
You've made a career in healthcare fundraising specifically, which I think is fascinating. And tell me a little bit about what are the differences between, very typical nonprofit fundraising and healthcare fundraising? What are the nuances?
Yeah, so in university fundraising, that's where I started, and then I moved into healthcare fundraising. In university fundraising, it's very much individuals and foundations and some corporate fundraising. You're raising money for scholarships and buildings and, athletic programs and everything you can think of. In healthcare fundraising, it's a little bit different. It's very much focused on, you get a lot of donors who are corporate donors. You get a lot of donors who are large foundation donors. You do a lot of projects. So it's just absolutely focused on patient health and patient outcomes. And so it's very different, but it's very exciting. And I think I enjoy healthcare fundraising much more because you actually get to see very quickly how you're helping. So, for example, I raised money for a flu shot program when I worked at Centura Health in Colorado. We would give flu shots to people who were elderly or, they were immigrants, and people who maybe a flu shot only cost $25, but that was the difference between, paying a bill versus, getting a flu shot. And they would obviously opt out of the flu shot, and they had other issues that would be, detrimental if they got the flu. And so that was one of the areas that I felt, really strongly about to help people. And you could see, we would have nurses come to us and say, we know that your flu shot program is helping because, we're just not seeing the kind of outcomes that we would see before. You actually had some metrics with it, which was exciting. And you really see the help that you're doing, the things that you're doing right away in healthcare. And I absolutely loved it. I still love it.
Most people hate fundraising. Even the people who do it, are like, oh, I have to do this today. So what, you spoke about it a little bit, but what draws you to this particular bridge of work, and what's your philosophy on giving in general? I think it's such a beautiful thing. It's such an honor that we can give to organizations and causes that we believe in. It's just so funny how people, it's such a thing that's hated as well. So just tell me a little bit about your experience. What draws you into this line of work?
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. People are like, oh, fundraising. That's the last thing I want to do. Okay, so I can give you an example. So I'm actually working on a doctorate at USC, and my dissertation is on nonprofit boards. And in there, and I'm going to answer this question, but I'm going to answer it in a roundabout way. So in there's a question for board members that says, tell me what you like to do, as a board member. And the board member said, and you're going to really appreciate this, Amy, the board member said that I like to meet with people who are like-minded. I like to thank people for being a part of the organization. And I like to connect with other people and tell them about the organization. But then when I asked them to rate fundraising, it was at the bottom of the list. So those were their top things, but fundraising was at the bottom of the list. And what's so funny about that is that's what I do all day as a fundraiser. I tell people about the organization. I connect with like-minded people. That's what I do all day. So people just don't equate those kind of things with fundraising. That's what I love about fundraising is that, you get the opportunity to excite people about what you're doing and show them your vision and really help them understand how they can be a part of something special. And so when I raised money to build a hospital at one point, that was so exciting because hospitals just aren't built every day. And you have to be born at the right time in your life to be able to give to this program, to give to a new hospital, And so it's very exciting. I don't know. I just find it kind of magical. I think it's amazing.
What is your philosophy about giving in general, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. Some people are well versed in it, and some people, I don't know, don't think about it or get very overwhelmed.
Yeah. Well, I have always said, even as a fundraiser, I'm not smart enough to talk people out of money that they don't want to give, and I don't want to do it for one. So I am happy when people are glad givers, and so I think the best philosophy you can have for fundraising is, really get involved with something that you care about. And giving should never hurt. Giving should be a blessing, and it's honestly, there's some data out there that says giving is actually good for your health. And so that it provides these wonderful endorphins when you give. So the philosophy I have on giving is, give at a level that is meaningful for you. Don't feel like you have to keep up with anybody else. Whatever is right for you is right for you, and it's going to be right for the organization. And, give with a glad heart.
Absolutely. I remember a couple times at the chapter, I'm sure you guys experienced this too at HFA, like the gifts that meant the most. I remember we got like a $2 gift during one of our walks. I don't remember who it was from or what family, but it meant so much to us knowing that was something that was meaningful to them. And it carried so much weight. And, as office staff, we really felt the beauty in that. It's such an interesting thing. Nonprofit giving is such an interesting thing. And yet I think it's such an honor that we get to do that.
Oh, it is an honor. It absolutely is. And when I worked at the hospital, we had a grateful patient program, and we would get notes, and we'd ask people to, make a donation in honor of somebody that meant something to you at the hospital. And we would get every now and then we'd get one from a person that would say, I'm elderly, I'm on a fixed income, but this doctor really made me feel good and took such good care of me. I don't have any money to give, but would you still honor that doctor? And we go, yes, absolutely we would. And invariably, because of just putting that good juju out into the world, we ended up getting like a surprise gift that we didn't even know was coming. And so it's such a blessing. It really is. And just to help other people. And it's not all about how much it is. It's the intent behind it, which is so special, like you said.
Another similarity between the both of us is that we are not directly affected by a bleeding disorder. So I have to ask, how did you become involved in our community, and what intrigues you about the work? They always say, once you get sucked in, you're like in, and I have experienced that. So I'm just wondering.
So every place I've worked prior to HFA, I had some kind of connection to. So I either worked at a university, or I worked at a Catholic hospital or a school or something like that. I had no connection to this community. And I was working at a hospital in Denver. They restructured and the whole thing. And so I was looking for a job. And I happened to meet one of the staff members at HFA, Sandra Wilkes. Both of our sons went to School of Rock together. And we were just sitting in the parents' lounge one day, really didn't even know each other. And we were just talking, and she said, well, what's going on? And I said, I'm looking for a job, and I've just had the best summer of my life on my severance stuff. And I said, I guess I better start looking for a job. And she said, development director just quit. And she's like, why don't you apply? I was like, yeah, I'll call him. And so I talked to Kimberly Hogsted and really had a great conversation with her, and then decided to come on board and went to my first meeting in Montana and got to know some of the patients and the community, and just fell in love with everybody. I'm sure it's the same thing for you. You just kind of fall in love with everybody, and you just don't want to leave, and you just start seeing the people that you can help and that you can make a difference, and you just want to be a part of it because it just feels so good to help others. The
first patient family that I met and I became close to was Sandra Wilkes' family as well. I don't think we put that together. Yeah. I was working, I was like a temp. I was like a file and faxer at the 340B pharmacy. That's how I got into it. But the first family that I got to know, and I hung out with the kids, I hung out with the siblings. And so that's crazy. Crazy town.
Yes, she is amazing. That is interesting how it all comes together.
Another thing we have in common is that we both got degrees while leading an organization. And I know it's a lot. It was a lot for me. I got my master's degree when I was first starting as the ED in Colorado. And so I'm just wondering, how is your program going? What is it for? Tell us a little bit more about it. You talked a little bit about it, but how are you coping with doing both? I know it's a lot. It's a lot.
So my program is with the University of Southern California, and it's an online kind of hybrid program. It's an organizational change and leadership, and it's a doctoral program, Doctor of Education. And so I just finished last week. I just defended my dissertation last week successfully. So I passed.
Oh, man.
And I'm so happy. I it's like a brand new me because I was going to school and I was working, I was working at HFA and being interim and then CEO and getting a new job and the whole thing. So it's been really good. I am very lucky because I have a supportive family. The staff is very supportive. The board is very supportive. Everybody is always, interested in how it's going for me. And they always say, is there anything I can do to help? And it's very exciting. And it's funny, organizational change and leadership is probably the perfect degree to have at this juncture because we're all experiencing so much organizational change. But I love it. I can't say enough nice things about USC. I'm a Trojan for life.
That is a feeling when you send off that final paper or when when you're done. I remember when I was done, I stood in my kitchen and I just started eating Fig Newtons, and I remember I couldn't figure out what to do. I was like, I don't know what to do. And I couldn't sit. I just stood there like an idiot eating like a sleeve of Fig Newtons, just trying to figure it out.
Mine was super anticlimactic. I finished my defense and then went downstairs and made dinner and then watched TV, and it was just like, I don't know. It's like everything. You just got to handle it.
You just got to handle it.
Yeah. And I actually finished. So I have to finish this semester, and then I have a 2-hour class in the summer. So I'll actually finish August 11th, and then I'll be officially Dr. Myers. I'm very excited. So.
Oh my gosh, we get to call you Dr. Myers?
Yes, you can, for sure.
That's exciting. Congratulations. I have to ask you, how are you doing in quarantine? Are you surviving? What are you doing for fun? Are you busy? Are you like, is it same old, same old? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I work from home normally. It's just, normally I work from home and I travel, and so there's no travel, but everything's fine. My husband also works from home. He works for an online university, and so he's just taken over the downstairs, and I'm I'm the upstairs person, and my son is a music teacher, and he's actually home as well. And so it's been great. I mean, we've been getting along, and like I mentioned on the other podcast, we're making sure that we're extra compassionate and extra understanding, because tensions can run high sometimes, when you're kind of trapped together. Right. And so, but everything's been going great. Everything's going well, and work has been going well. I mean, we communicated a lot by Zoom prior to this. This is just a new level of communication by Zoom all the time. So. But no, everything's going fine. Just getting groceries and and walking a lot. That's the nice part. So getting out. Because the weather's beautiful in Colorado.
I know. I was just going to ask you Colorado questions. So have you always lived in Colorado? Are you a transplant? That's a big thing in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm not from Colorado. I'm from Texas. So, and I've lived in Texas and Mississippi and then Colorado.
What brought you to Colorado?
The job. I was working for Centura Health, and I ended up actually worked in Colorado Springs, and then I worked in Denver for the same hospital.
Oh, just because I miss it, because I'm here in California. How is it in Colorado?
You can see the mountains perfectly. I mean, they've got a little snow on them. It's just beautiful today. And so, but you know what? I think it's supposed to snow on Sunday. So you know how Colorado is. I mean, you can literally have all the seasons in one day. I went to a baseball game once, a Rockies game, and when I got there, it was hot, and we were sitting on the first base line, and I got a sunburn. And then a storm came up, and it started to hail, and then it rained, and then it got super windy, and then it was cold. And we froze flat, and that was one baseball game. So yeah, classic. So.
Are any of your favorite local businesses doing anything cool during the quarantine, like any of the local restaurants?
I haven't been out to restaurants too much. We've just been staying home and cooking, which I'm getting a little tired of cooking all the time. But one thing Colorado is doing, and I think it's actually going throughout the nation, and I was thinking I might do that tonight, is have you heard people howling at the moon?
Okay, so I've seen it on Twitter. Tell me everything about this.
Okay. So what I know is, because last night I heard everybody howling at the moon, and I was like, okay, what is going on? And so I looked it up, and it was something started on Facebook. I guess it's just so adorable. I don't even want to cry. Wolves will howl to each other so they know that they're not alone, and that's how they communicate to each other. And so the fact that we're all caught up in our houses and feeling very alone and isolated, people are going outside and howling at the moon so people know we're not alone. Isn't that adorable?
That is the best.
Adorable. So I think I'm going to go howl at the moon tonight so people know they're not alone.
I love that. Everybody in your states do that. I love my home state. Thank you for indulging me.
So cute. I mean, I love a good howl at the moon anyway. So the intent is so sweet to make people, and I heard it last night, and you could hear people all over the neighborhood howling so people know they're not alone. The
guy that I heard about it from is a comedian in Denver, in downtown Denver, and he said it was loud down there too. So I think it's everywhere. Oh, Colorado's the best. Sharon, thank you so much for indulging me and all the things we have in common. I loved this. I loved this interview and this time. Thank you so much.
This was so wonderful. Again, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so honored, and thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. I tell you, we are so very fortunate and very, very lucky in this community to have all the amazing people we have working to serve other people.
Oh man, we love to be a platform to make sure you guys get your message and your vision out. Thank you so much. Sharon, of course, is the newly appointed CEO of HFA, or the Hemophilia Federation of America. HFA is home to the Helping Hands Financial Assistance Program, as well as extraordinary advocacy efforts on behalf of our community, educational programming across the country, and much, much more. Please visit HFA for more information at hemophiliafed.org. Thank you again, Sharon. I so appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
And that is all for episode 38 of the Ask the Expert podcast series. We'll be back next month with another expert interview.